The winner of the legal award played a very crucial role in a modern-day worker struggle, which is the historic fight for a $15 minimum wage, which is still going on. The introduction to our award winner.
I'm here fighting for you. I'm fighting for my family and my future and for a better life for all of us. And I'm glad we're all here standing up for what's right. So we want 15 and a union, and we want it now.
Our movement is building power, and building power by using its strength in numbers. And using our strength in numbers, we have won victories all over this country.
Yes, we're out here for a union and $15 because we want to help this economy grow, and we can't help it grow if you're not paying us a decent wage.
I make $9.43 an hour, and that's not enough to get by. It's not enough to pay bills. It's not enough to make rent every month. We need more. So we're fighting to make it happen.
We are work more! We are work more!
Show me!
Cause 54 million Americans would make less than $15 an hour. I'm a single mama making $9 an hour, and I can barely feed my kids.
Hi, my name is Adriana Alvarez and I work as a cashier at McDonald's in Chicago. And I really tried to be there with you tonight, but I couldn't get it off of work. I'm a single mother of a 6-year-old boy. His name is Manny. And working for McDonald's, I have been there for almost 7 years now. And the only way that I've been able to make it is with government assistance. And it's not that McDonald's just pays poverty wages. They also force you to work off the clock, also known as wage theft. In my store, it stopped when I started joining the Fight for 15. I'm a part of the National Organizing Committee now. We have tried hard to improve our situation, but guess what? McDonald's decides to retaliate. They intimidate us, they harass us, sometimes they even fire us. And through all these experiences, workers just like me are so lucky to have a fierce, fearless, a brilliant woman behind us, just like Mary Joyce, who fights for us all the way. She has given me personal calls after hours to make sure that I understand what's going on. If I have any questions, when we're going on strike, Mary Joyce is there to protect us. When we're harassed, Mary Joyce makes sure that we know our rights. And she comes every possible way for us to fight back. And when McDonald's tries to get away with, poverty wages and dodging taxes in Europe, Mary Joyce goes, not so fast. When, the lawmakers in Alabama decided to not give people $10.10 an hour, Mary Joyce is the one who won't let them get away with it. Mary Joyce has been with us every step of the way from the beginning. And when people thought we were crazy for demanding $15 an hour, but guess what? 22 million workers across the country have won raises. So that's 10 million people who are on the way to $15 an hour. Clearly, McDonald's, you're messing with the wrong lawyer. When this campaign started, I was at $8.50 an hour, but now I'm at $12 an hour, and it's a great help. But it's still not enough, and we still don't have the protection that we need. But we have one by acting like a union, and guess what? We're not stopping now. I am extremely excited that Mary Joyce is winning this award, and that we can count on her. And I'm so sorry I couldn't be there, but I would love to say congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the family of George Barrett for this award. It has been a wonderful honor and great privilege to be the counsel to the Fight for 15 campaign and to represent Adriana Alvarez and the thousands of workers who are her colleagues across the country who have struggled to raise the wages of poverty workers in many occupations. This movement actually started right here in New York City in 2012 when 200 fast food workers went on strike, demanding $15 in a union. I remember it well. It was November 29th. The weather was terrible. It was raining. We had no idea what would come of it. And at the end of the day, we said it was a terrific success, not because the workers immediately got their union or they immediately got $15 an hour, but because they really grew strong together and began to have a lot of hope that things would change. And that strength and that hope was infectious. And soon the strikes spread. There have been 15 strikes in all. There have been strikes in a total of 330 cities on the same day with the same demand for $15 and a union. And finally, all the protest, all the striking, and all the activity began to achieve a result. In New York City, there was a wage board. The wage board resulted in an order for $15 an hour for the fast food workers in the city, and soon that wage rate was spread throughout New York. $15 an hour is now the law of the land in California, in Washington, D.C., in New York State, and even Rahm Emanuel, who was against a $9 minimum wage, as a result of the work of Adriana and her colleagues in Chicago, raised the minimum wage to $12 an hour, proposed it, and it was passed. You know, to really understand, I think, the achievement, you have to go back to 2012. Obama was reelected president in early November. Even Obama was not for a $9 an hour minimum wage. There was no discussion of wages in this country. The discussion was about austerity and how we had to all conform to what existed. And what exists when there is not a victory is $7.25 an hour. Now, I don't know how many of you can even imagine living on $7.25 an hour. I'm sure most people spend twice that much every day at Starbucks. Even small cities have raised wages for their workers, their public sector workers, where they could. Greensboro, North Carolina, implemented a $15 an hour wage for the city workers in Greensboro. The little tiny town of Forestville in Georgia implemented $15 an hour for its wages. The city of Atlanta, when Kasim Reed left his term, he implemented $15 an hour for the city workers in Atlanta. And private sector corporations, on their own, not, I might add, the fast food companies or the retail companies or the warehouse companies or Amazon, who are some of the biggest offenders in this area, they have not raised their wages. But Aetna, Wells Fargo, Duke University in Durham, North Carolina, even the University of Alabama, a hospital system in Birmingham, Alabama, these companies have raised their wages. And as Adriana pointed out, as a result, 22 million people in this amount of time have had a wage raise that makes a huge difference in their lives. Unfortunately, we have not managed to cover the country. And so there are those who still struggle with these poverty wages. There are 100 million American workers in this country who go to work every day, 1 job, 2 jobs, sometimes 3 jobs, and they live at or close to the poverty level. There are 1 in 5 children in this country who go to bed hungry every night. This is a national disgrace. This is not the way that we are supposed to live in the United States of America. These cities really believe in, many of the cities really believe in trying to better the lives of their citizens. And as soon as the lobbyists for the retail and for the restaurant industry figured this out, they began an assault at the state level to pass a rule that's called preemption. And what preemption means is that a city is not free to exercise its power to raise a wage or to change working conditions or to change benefits. All of that power belongs at the state level. So when Cleveland, Ohio passed a law to raise the wages for the citizens in Cleveland, it was preempted by the state of Ohio. When the voters in Kansas City, Missouri saw that, they said, okay, we're going to have a referendum. We're going to vote for a raise. And a referendum was organized, and the majority of the voters voted for a $15 an hour raise for the city of Kansas City, Missouri. That was snatched from them by the state of Missouri when they preempted that wage raise. We have a case that Adriana mentioned in Alabama. There was no preemption in Alabama. The city of Birmingham, Alabama, after a campaign by local civil rights groups, Raise Up Alabama, said, we're going to raise our wage to $10.10 an hour. That was a huge deal, believe it or not, for the workers that I know who make $7.25. I had a dad tell me I can pay for my son's high school graduation, to rent the cap and gown, to make the payment for the diploma. I had a young woman tell me that she thought it might even be possible for her to save money to go to college if they got that raise. Birmingham passed it, and within a month, the state of Alabama nullified it. Now, Birmingham, Alabama was the only city in Alabama that had acted to raise a wage. Birmingham is majority African American. The city council is African American. When the vote to enact the preemption happened in the state legislature, it was racialized. Every African American legislator voted against the preemption rule. Every white legislator voted for the preemption rule. The bill was passed. It was put on the governor of Alabama's desk. At that time, he was in a bit of a scandal because he had a paramour, and you know, they have a problem with these things in Alabama. But he took time from his lunch and went to the State House and signed that bill into law within an hour. So the whole thing was over and done. The civil rights groups in Raise Up Alabama said, this cannot stand. And we filed a lawsuit, and the lawsuit is based on civil rights principles. It challenges the state of Alabama, saying that it violated Section 2. The state violated that section of the Voting Rights Act when they took the power from Birmingham and transferred it to the state. And the law violated the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution when it treated Alabama in disregard of the case of Arlington Heights. We had the misfortune when we went to district court of appearing in front of a judge who had been a former management labor lawyer. And so he had spent his career representing the steel interest and the retail interest in Alabama, and he'd spent quite a bit of time making sure that the widows and orphans of the coal miners in Alabama did not receive too much in benefits from their husband's welfare account. So this is a judge that we went in before, and he immediately got, almost as quickly as the legislature, dismissed our case, finding that there's no way that the subject of wages could be related to civil rights. Now, who believes that he's right about that in here? The subject of wages has been related to civil rights for a very long time. Right now, we're in the Court of Appeals on that case, and I can only hope that it doesn't take us 38 years, the way it took George Barrett, but we're inspired by him. The bravery and the commitment of the workers who lead the struggle is really amazing. And we have wonderful allies in it. In April of 2016, we were surprised in Atlanta when John Lewis came to a strike line. And John Lewis is much beloved and much respected. There was a young woman on that strike line with her small son, and John immediately noticed her, and he asked her about her life, what was going on, very softly. She told him, and he said to her, "Don't be afraid. You have to keep on with this. There is nothing to be afraid of." And then he said, "You know what we have to do? We have to keep on marching. We have to find a way to get what we deserve." And then he said, "If we can't find a way, we have to make a way." And that is what I believe. I believe that we have to make a way. And we do that partially by supporting the right to strike of these low-wage workers, of the teachers who are striking now. We do that by having solidarity with the unions that are behind them. And we do that by committing ourselves to stand firm and to find a way, to make a way toward a society that is not characterized by inequality and economic injustice. And I want to thank you again for this award. It's a great honor, and I hope to see you all on the picket line. Thank you.